Hello everyone, this is Raven here with another gameplay battle replay of the Greenskins versus the Wood Elves. Today I actually brought a pretty interesting build that you might have seen from Ninja Hum the streamer on twitch.tv. So the build consists of 4 Savage Orcs on either flank, 2 on each side, and in the middle 5 units of Savage Orc Biggins mixed in with 3 units of Squig Herds, and then an Orc Shaman with the Foot of Gork and Irigo for the added 58 melee attack, and then the Foot for stomping action against any cavalry that might have been brought by the Wood Elves today, and just some added damage in the front line. And in the back you can see an Orc Boar Boy Biggins unit mixed in with 2 Goblin Big Bosses on their spiders, and then the Night Goblin War Boss with Wog, I believe it is... I can't quite remember the name of this ability, but the Stand Your Ground, 16 leadership, plus 36 melee defense, and then Potion of Toughness and Potion of Foolhardiness, trying to keep them in the fight as long as possible. So I know that these units are going to be susceptible to magic damage from Dryads, Treekin, and Treemen, or any magic missiles that he may be having in his army, which the Wood Elves are known for, but I'm hoping that the higher movement speed and extremely high damage of all my frontline units are going to be able to power through his units today and be able to win off the battle. Over here you can see that I actually have 2 units of Goblin Wolf Riders, Vanguard deployed. I don't know how this happened. It was just the most perfect Vanguard deployment I've ever had in my entire life, I swear to God. And I have them right on top of 2 Vanguard deployed units of the Wood Elves, the only 2 Vanguarded units. It was just the most amazing thing ever. So over here you can actually see that he has a Deepwood Scout and then a Glade Riders with Hat-Bang Tips, which actually do poison damage and also cause magical damage when striking any of these units. So they will ignore that 30% physical resistance and do their full damage against these 0 armor Savage Orcs. And over here for his leadership, you can actually see a pretty hefty goon squad. Glade Lady on the Forest Dragon with the Arrow of Kurnos, Prey of Anathrama, excuse me, I'm not quite sure on the pronunciation of that. I know I'm probably butchering it. And then the Potion of Potion of Toughness for the added melee defense, added toughness, and HP regeneration. Over here, the Spellsingers, one of each of the 3 Lords of Magic are on Great Eagles. This one has the Pit of Shades, the Occam's Mind Razor. This one has the Regrowth. This one has the Flock of Doom and the ability to summon the Manticore. And then each one of them has the Blessing of the Ancient. So if they get stuck into combat while in the forest anywhere along this map, which there is a lot of trees, they would be able to regenerate their Winds of Magic quite quickly. Over here for his main infantry line, you can see 2 units of War Dancers, Eternal Guards with Shield, Treekin, and a Tree Man. So these Treekin and Tree Man, with their magical damage, are going to be able to punch through my front line pretty effectively. And War Dancers do trade quite well with relatively most units that have low armor. So they'll do alright. But in the end, that physical resistance of the Orcs and their high weapon damage is just going to be able to punch through them. And these Eternal Guard with Shields do have quite high melee defense, but mixed in with the Wog or the Here We Go spell, there's not going to be much that these guys can do to defend against all the damage that's going to be coming their way. So go ahead and starting out this battle replay, you can see that my Goblin Wolf Riders, I immediately sick them on their targets, trying to get initial damage before they're taken out, because immediately you can see that this Flying Goon Squad just comes in hot. So over here, Deepwood Scouts are actually doing quite well, shooting and fighting while in melee combat, taking out these Goblin Wolf Riders quite effectively. Over here, these Glade Riders with the Hat-Bang Tips come in and do a punishing rear charge against these Goblin Wolf Riders. These Goblin Wolf Riders come over here and I try and do as much damage across the board as I can before they're taken out by all these flying units. So I'm going to be losing about 600 resources right here from these 2 Goblin Wolf Riders right out the gates, but I'm able to detect the 2 Vanguarded units before they can do any damage to me without me maybe trying to go up this way and getting caught. So thankfully for that, I do find out about their little ambush, and I go ahead and start trying to pull my army over here, seeing his army, and I need to avoid this side over here because there's just so much happening. Magic Missile, Terror, and all these flying units that can cause fear. That's just not a good place for these Savage Orcs with their really shitty leadership. So trying to keep them together, and I'm going to start pulling them through the hill right here, right through the canyon, and trying to engage this army as heartily as possible and try and draw him into a prolonged melee combat where I'll be able to fight it out, because he only has 300 units where I brought almost 1,000. So over here, just trying to mirror his movements of his Flying Goon Squad with my cavalry and my leadership, so I can be able to jump in on him whenever he comes down and over here. So I'm going to go ahead and skip forward a little bit, just a little bit of dancing around and trying to re-micro my units to get them engaged more properly. Over here you can see the War Dancers coming in hot, and my Squig Herds just absolutely send them flying with their amazing charge damage of 40 and their 31 damage and bonus versus infantry. Actually, if you take a look right here, they actually have a bonus of 11, and then right here the Squigs go wild. they actually take minus 18 melee defense when their leadership starts to waver, but gain leadership, gain melee attack, and armor piercing damage. So sticking them into the front line is always a really good idea, but they'll be taking a lot of damage, but trading quite well, relatively effectively against almost any kind of target. So over here you can see that it's just a big melee grind fest over here. I got the treeman over here trying to do some terror, take out my lord, and over here he casts a nasty pit of shades, and this is just going to be absolutely punishing seeing this come in. I'm actually going to go ahead and turn down the volume a little bit because I can tell it's going to be a little bit loud with all this fighting going on, all these units so close together. Maybe a little bit too quiet. Right there, sounds about good. So, as you can see, this pit of shade is about to go off, and it's just going to be punishing. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the kills right here. 1 kill as of now, but as you can see, these units are just being tossed. Their salads are just getting mixed so thoroughly. They're just clumping together and just being spat back right out. Spat right back out. Excuse me for that. Kind of stuttering today. Trying to talk real fast, get through this. And as you can see, the kills on this Spellsinger with the Lure of Shadows isn't going quite high. I got 33 kills right there, but the terror and the health damage is really what he was going for. All these units right here are just so beat up from that spell that any of the broad attacks and the splash damage from these Great Eagles or the Forest Dragon is going to be able to do some good work in a very juicy Flock of Doom. So over here, I was doing really bad. I just went full mouth breather this fight, and I just sent all my units straight into the melee, hoping to try and grind it out as fast as possible and knock out as many of his units as I could. Over here, you can see that I sicked my leadership squad onto his Glade Lord on the dragon, so he has to pop that potion of toughness and run away as fast as possible, try and regen health before I can catch him and try and finish him off and get him off the field. Over here you can see that the squishiness of the Great Eagles is coming into play with their relatively low melee defense and melee attack mixed with the Spellsingers. So sadly, Spellsingers on Great Eagles do not do a whole lot. They do have pretty good damage at 270, but with 15 armor and 18 melee attack and 12 melee defense for each of these 3 units, they're going to get torn apart by even the most basic of infantry units, especially when those infantry units are going to be Savage Orcs. But over here you can see Terror is causing mass routing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units routed from Terror. And over here in the back, you can see another 3. These Squig herds got beat up in the front lines and were sent running. This unit got destroyed in the front line and was also sent running. So it's been a very, very atrocious fight for me. Over here you can see that a Foot of Gork did go off at one point and stomped out these poor Glade Riders, but I did miss that action. I'm sorry about that for y'all. Another Pit of Shades going off. This is just brutal, sending lots of my units routing and doing lots of damage to other units caught in the blast radius of it. Over here, the Night Goblin Warboss is actually terror routing and fleeing from the field, so I'm just trying my best, trying to get any leadership I can to try and take out his Glade Lord before she can get in here with her armor-piercing damage and take out any of my leadership that she really wants to with that high mobility and the Prey of Anathrama and Arrow of Kurnos ability. So over here, my Lord does route, thankfully, and I'm able to pop the Potion of Foolhardiness and Potion of Toughness and start focusing down his Glade Lady on the dragon, and then his Spellsinger with the Lure of Life comes in as well. And I keep bringing in all my leadership. You can see a Goblin Big Boss running in, trying to save the day. My Lord over here trying his hardest to try and take out as many people as he can before fleeing the field. The Glade Lady has gone down, and you can see this one up here in the air with the Lure of Shadows just does not want anything to do with this action over here with all these powerful leadership trying to take out the other lords and heroes from his army. He pulls in the Treeman, who has relatively low HP at 900, but that 100 armor and that 20% physical resistance is going to keep him pretty healthy in this fight, especially because I can't get the surround off on his units because he's so packed tight right here with this Treekin and the War Dancers surrounding him at all flanks, doing their good damage against him. So this is going to be a very, very atrocious fight. As you can see, lots of my units are being sent routing and rallying and coming back, and then being sent routing again and rallying and coming back, and it's a never-ending train back and forth, and I'm just trying my best to try and keep my units as tight as possible, trying to keep their leadership as high as I possibly can without losing them. Over here you can see that my Lord went in on these Deepwood Scouts, trying to prevent them from doing damage, but they are put in guard mode right now, so they're able to keep firing even though they are engaged in melee, but eventually are changed to just try and fight out the battle with my Night Goblin War Boss over here and send him fleeing from the battle. Over here, you can see the Spellsinger with the Lure of Shadows and the Spellsinger, a beast over here, doing some really good work against my Night Goblin War Boss with their pretty good weapon damage. So I start pulling in my Goblin Big Boss, and he's going to do an absolute beating on these units over here. This one already routing due to my Lord. My Lord routing, though, and now I start focusing down the Spellsinger with the Lure of Beast, and she gets hit one time and decides to rout as well. And they're probably going to flee the field right here with their extremely high movement speed of 91 at the moment. Due to being poisoned. Going up to 117 right here. They're going to rout, and they're going to flee before being able to rally. Over here, my goblins are going to be able to take this fight pretty handily against these Deepwood Scouts who don't have the quite high enough combat stats to be able to win this fight against them. In the front line, you can see that it's just mass chaos for my units. As you can see, I'm already down to 259 units out of my 994 that I initially started with. My enemy is down to 128 units at the moment, and I try and charge in these Savage Orc Big Guns to try and intercept as many units as possible, hopefully allowing these units to be able to rally because they're going to have enough distance from enemy units that are chasing them down, while my Goblin Big Bosses over here start doing work in the back lines, trying to finish off these archers before they can come in and start trying to support the fight. Over here, my Night Goblin War Boss I start trying to bring into the fight. I realize this tree man with his terror is just going to be an absolute horror on the battlefield. If I can't get rid of him and his terror, these beat up units just coming into the proximity of him within a 30-meter range or so, they're just going to start routing. Even if they're not engaged directly to him, just that proximity to the terror and the fear that he causes is going to be enough to shake their already quite low leadership. As you can see, 4 leadership right there as he just barely rallies and starts coming back into the fight is going to be enough to send them routing. Fear actually causes minus 10 leadership, so if these units were to come anywhere near him, they would just immediately shatter and run from the field. Over here, my big bosses, I try and get them around these Treekin to try and support my Goblin, my Night Goblin War Boss over here, and try and take out these War Dancers as fast as possible, and I start getting swamped by all of his cavalry and the Treekin again, so I start pulling in these Savage Orc trying to do their work. This is my healthiest unit, so I start sending him directly after this Treeman. I say, I need you gone. I pull this other Goblin Big Boss into the fight because I really need this Treeman to get knocked out of the field, because if these 2 units can do it, I might have a shot at being able to survive. Over here, I was trying my best. I needed everything to try and do as much damage as possible, so I use a Foot of Gork again on these Treekin, but sadly, due to their really high HP and not so high model count, they don't take a whole lot of damage, and I kind of waste that spell where I could have used maybe an Here We Go or something else when it became a really pitched fight, and added melee bonuses would have changed the fight in my favor. Over here, my opponent is trying to keep his forces relatively packed together, which is a smart move, chasing over here with his cavalry, trying to rout out my forces from the field, which is, of course, the smartest possible choice he could have. So over here you can see these 3 units are absolutely going to just be slaughtered and ran down by these Glade Riders with their Hagbane tips. But over here, I'm able to get a good charge off of my Savage Orc Big Guns and then support them with the encouragement of my Goblin Big Boss. And as they start winning this fight, their morale is actually going to go up a little bit and keep them in the fight against these Eternal Guard with shields and run them off the field. Over here, you can start seeing that he's going to be trying to redirect these Glade Riders over here to try and do some rear charges and send these units fleeing from the field. Over here, you're going to be able to see that my Goblin Orc, my Orc Shaman's going to get caught by these Treekin and absolutely mauled down. I'm not sure that he even gets to rout. I'm pretty sure that they just straight up kill him, and he's immediately wiped out the field. Over here, I start realizing that this Goblin Big Boss had came back from routing, and I start pulling him back into the fight immediately because I need everything possible trying to do this fight. That's going to be coming up against this extremely healthy unit of Treekin with 4,900 HP, whereas my Goblin Big Boss has 663, 1,085, 691, and 1,672. These 4 units together, I don't even think have the equivalent HP of this one Treekin unit. So they're going to be able to do extremely good damage, especially because these Savage Orcs, like I said, have no armor and 30% physical resistance. So with these magical attacks, they're going to be doing that full 42 damage per strike and splash damage to all these units, especially how I pack them up in just a moment. You'll see I just start trying to chase off these units, but I realize they're shattered. I go ahead and group up my units to try and raise their leadership before trying to engage, and this is it. This is the final battle right here. 2 Goblin Big Bosses and 2 units of just absolutely worked on Savage Orc Big Guns, absolutely tattered to the max. They're tired. They don't even care about whether they live or die. They say, put me out of my misery. I'm already in enough pain. I don't even care what happens. I start charging these 2 units in, and I start pulling in my goblin big bosses from either flank, trying to get the flanking and rear charge penalties to start trying to break the morale of the treekin and try and direct more of the damage towards these savage orc biggins, because I know with these savage orc biggins, a lot of the damage is going to be redirected towards that physical resistance and nullified, whereas my big bosses with their extremely high weapon damage are going to be able to pierce through that and be able to take the most of the HP off of these treekin in a very long and atrocious fight right here. As you can see, the leadership wavering across almost every single unit except for the goblin big bosses. But as soon as these units rout right here, that's going to be it for my big bosses, and they're going to flee the field too, because in the end they're not going to be able to stop this many treekin if my units start routing. Without the support of their infantry, they're going to flee, because at the end of the day they are just scared little goblins. They don't have the leadership to be able to stand up for themselves. But as you can see, I don't know what held these orcs together at the very last moment, but they pulled through and they did whatever damage they needed to do against these treekin, and they were able to win the fight with the most tattered and fucked up force that you could possibly imagine, winning the day for the Greenskins here against Salt Curse of 39 playing the Wood Elves. So as you can see, his units absolutely outperform mine all across the board, everywhere. His hero right now, Spellsinger with the Lore of Shadows, getting 70 kills with those 2 Pit of Shades. The Glade Lord with her terror and the Tree Man with his terror were absolutely devastating, able to rout, like I said, 7 units at once. So this many units, I would only have 2 units into the melee if my Squig Herds had routed. 2 units left in the melee that wouldn't have been routed from that one mass rout of terror. So absolutely amazing game by my opponent. Completely outplayed me. In the end, the massive hordes were able to defeat him, though, just because of the sheer quality over quantity. So amazing game to you. Hopefully I see you again on ladder and I do better, because I absolutely went full mouth breather, and I'm so sorry for that. But you did a great job, and I'll have to see what y'all guys think of that. If y'all leave comments in the comment section, if y'all like seeing pitched fights like that coming to the very bitter end like that, could have gone either way. So leave a like if you like what you saw, subscribe if you want to see more, and as always guys, I'll catch y'all later.